The word conspiracy is associated with insanity and paranoia, but the actual definition isn't too shocking. A secret plan by a group of people plotting something illegal or immoral. There are countless examples of real conspiracies from history. For several decades now, people have been making allegations that the CIA has been selling hard drugs to the black community. The amount of evidence is now overwhelming. We know it's happened. The CIA pushed crack cocaine into Los Angeles in the 1980s. The drug money helped to fund foreign CIA operations. Many former officials have come forward to expose this. Much of the profits funded anti-communist forces during the Nicaraguan War. Nicaragua was where some of the drugs were grown. The evidence for this is all in the National Archives. Watergate is the mother of all scandals. Watergate began with a big leak, exposing former presidents of expanding the Vietnam War. This triggered the current president, Richard Nixon, to conspire against people critical of him. He had the Democratic Party building broken into and bugged. That building was called Watergate. Nixon denied any connection to this, but he recorded every phone conversation he had at the time. He was forced to release the tapes in 1974, which revealed his involvement. He was forced to resign, and many of his colleagues were put on trial. This one is going to sound ridiculous, but it really did happen. In the 1960s, the Haitian government was struggling against militant rebel groups. CBS News agreed to fund a rebel group planning a government overthrow. In return, CBS would have exclusive access to film the conflict. The conspiracy was set to happen, but the US government arrested rebel leaders to prevent it. It's hard to believe a news corporation would try to invade a country. The Dreyfus Affair was a conspiracy to falsely accuse a man of treason. He was Alfred Dreyfus, a French military officer. When important information was leaked to the Germans, he was blamed. He was sent to a South American prison island for 5 years. But it soon came to light that the information was leaked by a different officer. By this time, the French people knew what was going on and demanded a retrial. Dreyfus was found guilty once again, but political pressure led to him being pardoned. It was a blatant conspiracy to blame a Jewish person for someone else's crime. In 1969, a new French president was elected, but a group of his opponent's followers wanted him to resign. Their plan was to embarrass him into leaving office, so they published some photographs appearing to show his wife engaging in group sex. As you'd expect, this put a lot of pressure on him, but he refused to resign. The photographs didn't actually show his wife, but a prostitute disguised. The Gulf of Tonkin is a body of water near Vietnam. In 1964, it was reported that the American Navy were attacked by 3 Vietnamese boats in the Gulf. The US government used this to justify their expansion of the Vietnam War, and it turns out they basically made the whole thing up. They were attacked by the Vietnamese, but almost no damage was done. The official story stated that a lot of damage was done, and the Vietnamese chased them away. During the 17th century, one of the major European powers was an unofficial empire called the Habsburg monarchy. The Ottoman Empire was a major power rival to them, but the two empires signed a peace treaty in 1664. The treaty put Hungary under Habsburg control. The Hungarian people hated the Habsburgs and therefore this arrangement. A group of influential Hungarians formed a conspiracy against them. They appealed to other European powers to support their liberation. After failing to convince England, France, Poland, and Sweden, they got desperate. They went to the Ottoman Sultan and promised that Hungary would submit to him. This didn't work. They did still rebel against the Habsburgs. It failed pretty quickly. The Indian mystic Osho wrote more than 600 books, with which he gained a huge following. In 1984, a group of his followers conspired to win a local election in Oregon. They broke into local restaurants and infected their food with salmonella. This caused 751 people to catch it. 45 were sent to hospital. Those behind it did not win the election. They were just arrested. Elizabeth I was Henry VIII's daughter, so she wasn't Catholic, but much of the English population still were. A group of Catholic nobles secretly conspired to assassinate the Queen so that her Catholic cousin may assume the crown. Francis Throckmorton led the conspiracy. His plan was to kill the Queen at the same time Spain was due to invade England. Catholic groups in England would then rise up to help. The King of Spain agreed to fund the whole thing, but it never happened. Throckmorton was tortured into admitting the plot before. The Second World War began with the Nazi invasion of Poland. They had no legitimate reason to invade, so they decided to create the illusion of Polish aggression towards Germany. They staged fake attacks on German officials along the border. Some German soldiers disguised themselves as Polish soldiers and held up a radio station. They broadcast anti-German messages as if they were coming from the Polish. This was enough to justify an invasion to the German people. It was called Operation Himmler, as Heinrich Himmler had the idea.